Okay, that was the gray hair. Are you filming yet?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Oh, well. Want you to get my good side. Well, it could be over here. Anyway, good morning. And I'm doing this playful thing this morning, so for those of you who came for a serious service, please come back. The church has different speakers very often every Sunday, and you get to hear a very strong variety of choice, understanding, inspiration, encouragement, and an awareness of spiritualism, which is the one thing that most of us who are here have in common. I would like to talk with you today about being happy. I was given the subject because they said, I don't know what I'm going to talk about today, and for those of you who haven't a clue what I'm doing up here, is that I speak by inspiration for the group that I'm in front of. And yet I have ideas of what I would love to participate with you doing and talking about today, but I also want to feel that you leave here somewhat inspired, not necessarily by me. It could be about something totally different, that you have a new idea, a new awareness, a new understanding within yourself and your own thought. Speaking of thoughts, all of us have them, whether they are very slow going, whether they are short and sweet, whether they are fast moving. And so one thing that I relate to a lot is the fantasy mind. A lot of people think fantasy is just people who wrote Superman and Star Trek or Avatar the movie or things of that nature, but it's not that. For every medium that stands up and or sits down in a seance or a reading and receives information, their mind is translating. Their mind is taking imagery and allowing it to have meaning or have clarity. So what happens for any of us, and I'm speaking any of us, whether a trained medium or not, is the fact that we have this wonderful thing called fantasy mind. But it's also the same thing that can scare us. It's the same thing that can project about life. It's the same thing that might feel, we were talking about going on a vacation and what the dilemmas might be, and those kinds of things turn into fears quite often. The fantasy mind can create the fears. We are at a time in our humanity, we've just gotten through COVID, and we're just trying to regroup from that. And so you can hear somebody cough. I cough a lot, so I can clear the room. And it's just a problem, or not really a problem, but a tricky esophageal, whatever this is. Anyway, and so a lot of people don't know that. You don't know what's going on with the stranger sitting next to you unless you're married to them, and then they might be strange. But what I'm getting at is the projections that we make in thought are always there. They're there daily. Email is one of the greatest things for projection, and texting. You obviously know what this person was emotionally feeling when they composed this message. Yeah, right. So that's the fantasy mind. It takes information and it processes it. All of you have it. All of you create with it, whether it's on the job, whether it's something that you do in your home, whether it's driving your car and having an awareness of the other vehicles around you. And so I noticed last night when I went to bed that I was a little concerned about the alarm clock, that I wanted to make sure that I got here on time because time was shifting. And so, you know, it's like I woke up at 2:30 and at 3:30 and at 4:30, and then I couldn't remember if I changed the clock. That's a dilemma. But luckily I have a phone up right there too, and I looked at the time on the phone and it convinced me that I had changed the clock. But I want to go, I'm going to give you an aside. This is an aside. Is that I got a new phone years ago, and this phone talks. I didn't know that when I bought it. So we set it up, and friends set it up because my technological skills are zip. And so all of a sudden the phone rings. And so I'm thinking, oh, okay. And I want to go ahead and answer it. And then all of a sudden it says, there's a call from Judy Cooper. Well, Judy Cooper lives down the road from me, and I'm going, where did that come from? Because one of the things in spiritualism is, because we believe so strongly in the guidance and the direction from the unseen side of life, you can fool yourself. So I was listening, wondering where this voice came from, because I live alone, that's tricky. So, guess what? It was the telephone. So years before that, I lived in Los Angeles for a time, years ago, and I had a beanbag chair. You know beanbag chairs? Okay, well, they came back into being more modernized again, but anyway, I had one way back. This was in the early 70s. And I'm living out there, and I had studied, developed, and been a part of this church at that time before I left. And it was an interesting thing because I was in a little studio apartment sitting on a beanbag chair, and I had headphones on to listen to my stereo. This is before computers, cell phones, and all the wonderful distractions that we can provide for ourselves these days. I didn't have a TV at that time either. So I'm sitting on the floor, on the beanbag chair, on the floor rather, and I have the headphones on, and suddenly the beanbag chair goes once again. Then in the headphones it announced that there was a 4.5 earthquake that just happened off of Santa Monica. And if you crossed the street in front of my apartment, you would have been in Santa Monica. So now I'm going, oh, well, that was interesting. Fantasy mind can fool us. Fantasy mind can bring us joy. Fantasy mind can bring wonderful inventions. Fantasy mind can make a cake. Fantasy mind is in everybody. All of us have a place that dreams. All of us have a place that hopes. All of us have a wonderful quality that wants to pursue life, because all of you want to feel that there will be a tomorrow. How are you going to feel about being here tomorrow? If you're stuck in fear about living, if you're projecting that life is out to punish you, we are very fortunate in our religion and our philosophy and science here that there is no death and that there are no dead. And the beauty of that is because so many people are afraid of tomorrow and afraid of tomorrow not being okay. And what I want to tell you after going to bed last night and then waking up at odd hours of the morning was I had a real sensitivity about driving here. And I was trying to wrestle with it within myself because I thought, well, is this an impression I'm having of not doing it, so I should call Annette and tell her I'm not coming? And then I thought, no, I've done this time and time again, so I want to tell you that. If there's anything that you fear, if there's anything that you question, if it's something that you've done before, if it's something that you've completed before, look at what you've done. Don't look at the problem, look at the solution. The wonderful thing about fantasy mind is it allows us to project on things a great deal. And the fact is that you are inspired constantly during the day, and not necessarily always by external sources. Our first principle is we believe in infinite intelligence. And to me, that's the big one. That's where all that is. I call it the isness because it's everything and it's one thing more. It's that next thought you're going to have. It's that next opportunity you're going to have. It's that next laugh you're going to create. So in talking about being happy, some people would feel that they would be happy if they had money. Some people feel that they would be happy if they had love in their life. If you want love in your life, you put love out there. That doesn't mean that you have to go to some place to meet people one-to-one, but it does mean that you allow life to come on in instead of pushing life out. And how we push life out is often because of our fear. Your soul wants to create. It wants to create impeccably and joyfully and quickly. If you notice when you are in anything that you're doing and it's creative, anything, a lot of the time you'll lose track of time. That was redundant. But anyway, many times you will complete whatever you're working on wondering where the time went, because of the fact that you're focused and because of that creativity that's expanding and flowing through you, and it's bringing forth all kinds of wonderful designs and opportunities or troubleshooting on technological equipment. It does not matter. How are you going to be happy during these times if you're listening to the news? How are you going to be feeling that there is opportunity for you? If you feel that life is narrowed, how are you going to allow yourself to be aware of your own fantasy mind? And when you do this thing where you start to scare yourself, if you become aware of it, stop for a moment and recognize it. A lot of times, people don't want to talk about fear. I talk about fear a lot, and you know why? I mentioned a minute ago that the soul of you wants to create, and it wants to create quickly. And the soul of any of us cannot create easily if fear is in the way. It acts like a filter on the very thing you want to accomplish. Wonderful quote is, if you're looking at fear, you're looking too soon. And sometimes that's like going to the dentist. I'm not a really good fan of the dentist. I'm not really good about needles. I don't have a lot of tattoos because of needles. There's a whole lot of things, but I do know that if I go to the dentist, if the dentist works on me because there's a need, the outcome is the important thing. And I mentioned that a few minutes ago about the solution. So if you're looking at fear about anything, and a lot of people don't like the word fear, they think it's too strong, so I'll say concern. I had a concern when I chose one of the 3 vegetables in the back that it might have had a little bruise in it. Is that a big deal? Are you kidding? It was a beautiful squash, and I'm taking it home. How about you? So if you're looking at fear in your life, or you're looking at a concern in your life, you may be also looking in the wrong direction. What I mean by that is we create, and I've said this time and time again, we create in the direction we're looking. I don't mean with our physical sight. I mean with our inspiration. Your beautiful spirit houses a wonderful soul. And that soul is a forever thing. And that soul passes on to another dimension on the change called death. And meantime, on this earth, and meantime, while we're all in the body, I think we're all here, is the fact that you're creating. And while you're creating, make the most of it. Because the joy that you experience with it, and the joy that you can create in your own life, even if it's in little increments. Life has challenges. Look at me, I've had them, and I continue to have them. I teach natural law and have for 47 years, but I really want a t-shirt that says under construction. Because all of our lives, we are adding to self. And adding to self, we are expanding our knowledge. The person that you are here today is not the same person that would have been sitting here, when was I here last January? January? Maybe. You're not. Every cell in your body has shifted and changed. So when you're waiting for some divine inspiration, and there is that, I'm not making a mockery of it, but there's this wonderful divine essence that's flowing through you constantly. You don't have to wait to be a good person. You don't have to stand back because of something that you may have done or said a few years ago and you still have a sense of remorse about it. Let it loose. It's then, it's not now. One thing in our society is we have an awful lot of things bombarding us on a daily basis that are limitations and fears. I don't do cable TV, but I get to do a remote thing, you know, and the roulette thing where you're scanning all these things to see if there's something you want to watch. And I was watching all these wonderful creative people who have made musical instruments in the Appalachian area. And one of them is a man who makes accordions, but they're the small Appalachian ones. And I looked at him and I heard his little talk, and you know what? He reminded me exactly, almost, of a neighbor. And so I emailed the wife the next morning and told her about the program and said, you ought to see this segment because this man looks very much like your husband. And she emailed back and said, oh my goodness, and yes. So you think you're alone on this earth? Not necessarily. And you think that there's isolation because maybe of whatever you've done in your past or whatever didn't work out. I think of all the things I could have, would have, should have done. I think of all the reasons why when I was going to school and doing all those things where you feel like you're preparing for life, that suddenly I wasn't doing that because I didn't have a focus about where my life was going to go. A lot of you have had a different thing though. A lot of you have had an inner awareness of something you wanted to pursue. Was that something that you truly wanted, or was it a societal thing that said, if I do this, it will allow me to use that and therefore I will be successful? Neither way is better or worse. But that wonderful fantasy mind, does it keep you from being happy as to who you are today? Who I am today is who I am. Not who I should have been, not what I could have been, but today. And you know what's really fun? Is I've allowed myself to be overweight now. Yeah, I know. Okay, so you don't agree? Okay, so it was a part of discovering that when I woke up from surgery and suddenly had an asymmetrical face, is that there is a change in life that occurs for all of us. The scars that you may have within you can't be altered, but what you can do is add meaning about them. Because sometimes those experiences and challenges have propelled you into something different, something new, and something that you'll find more delightful. I laugh a lot, I joke a lot. I don't know if I would have done that if I had continued in the secretarial pool of the university. But you know what? I'm not there, I'm here. So, I want to just mention one thing to you. There's this wonderful lunch going on back there. I smelled it. And she kept adding stuff, and it kept smelling better and better. So I just want to tell you, there's a good lunch going on back there soon. Fantasy mind can create the fear, and you can hold on to it a lot. But you have talk about the infinite, we read about the infinite, you recite about the infinite, and you also recite about reformation. You can have new inspiration and new ideas, new awareness, new comprehension of anything in any moment. So you can't change the scars that life leaves on you, but what you can do is change their meaning. And when you do that, it doesn't mean that you have to get rid of the challenge of what you gained in that new insight. But instead of holding on to the fear that something like that will occur again, stretch out, because the universe wants to help you. And the universe is full of all that information and inspiration that's available for any of us at any moment. I want to tell you about a wonderful Friday as I'm concluding.
Mommy!
I know, it was Friday.
Me too! Mommy! Mommy! Mommy!
It was Friday. So I'm in a parking lot in my car with two friends that have come in from out of town. It's okay. And suddenly, we're getting ready to leave.
Daddy!
And when we leave, when we get ready to leave, one of them says, Diane, I think the woman in that van wants to talk to you. And it was just parked right over next to us. I rolled down my window and I said, hi, do you need something? Were you talking to me? And she said, no, I was waiting for the airport shuttle. I was afraid that we would miss it. You hear it? Do you hear afraid? I was afraid. Some people are afraid to pay a bill. Some people are afraid to buy a grocery. Some people are afraid. Now, a lot of people say, well, that's not a big fear. Well, no, it's not. But how many of those do you have? I was afraid I wouldn't look charming this morning. So none of you have to come up and comment to me how charming I look. But I want to tell you the fascinating thing about the woman in the van. I said, and there was a duffel bag out on the parking area by her van. And I said, are you leaving or is somebody else? And she said, oh no, I'm going home to Alaska. I said, oh, where do you live in Alaska? I've never been there, but anyway, ready? Are you ready for this? She said, I live in the North Pole. Really dear face on this woman. And I started laughing because all Friday, these two friends had come in from Oregon to see me. And I had given them readings and been joking with them all morning long. And so it was a delightful day. And every so often we have one of those that just, it kind of zings through the cells of your being. And here was this lady from the North Pole. And so the next thing I said, really? And she said, yes, I've lived there 25 years. And then her next statement was, my daughter used to work at Santa's workshop. So today, just observe your thinking. When you think you know what's going to happen because you're projecting up the hoo-ha about it, don't project too far. It may be a sense of discovery that's going to be out there, and it may be something really unusual and really different. Bring it on in. The universe wants to help you. And thanks so much for letting me talk to you.